Hey Aussie gamers, Luke1 here, and today I'm bringing you a video on the Nathan Drake collection, which is all three Uncharted games remastered for the PlayStation 4. So we've got Drake's Fortune, Among Thieves and Drake's Deception, all put on one disc for anyone that wants to pick it up. Now, if you haven't played any of the games before, this is going to be an amazing collection for you to pick up. What we're watching on screen at the moment is the original Drake's Fortune, which was released back around 2007, 2008, I think it was. Now, it did get a little bit dated. The gunplay and the action and all those sort of things probably didn't stand the test of time too well, but what they've done in the Drake collection, the Nathan Drake collection, is that they unified all the controls, made it so when you play the first one, this one that's on screen at the moment, it's not going to be very different to the next two games that were obviously released over many years. So they've unified the experience, which is quite a cool thing for them to do when they're remastering such an old game that's closing in on 10 years old. Now, all three of these games have been upscaled from the PS3's original 720p and 30 frames a second. They're now playing at a native 1080p and 60 frames a second, which is a nice staple for any game on the PS4 these days. So all of them are going to play nice and look nice. Now, the video you're watching at the moment is 720p and 30 frames a second, but that's because of recording equipment and things like that, not the actual game. It does output the good old 1080 and 60, so she plays beautiful. Now, not only have they made the frame rate go a little bit quicker and upscaled it, the game also has had a lot of graphical overhauls. Now, I've got a few points here that I'm going to read through, and just to point out the things that have been changed for the Nathan Drake collection. So as I said, all three games are now targeting 1080p and 60 frames a second, which it seems to do without any massive dramas. As we've got on the screen now, this is Among Thieves Uncharted 2. So as I'll keep moving on here, the screen tearing in the original Drake's Fortune has been completely removed, which is handy. That's real good. The PS3 generally had a bit of issues with that, so that's quite handy that that's gone. They've got increased texture resolution and geometry detail, which basically means fabrics and detail, small minor details on clothing and skin and all that have been upped to make it just look a little bit more detailed when the camera's up nice and close. There's improved lighting in the environments, which is very obvious for someone like myself who likes to pay attention to all those kinds of details, and I have played the original, so there are things that I've picked up on that make it quite a lot better. There's improved character models and shaders, so the actual character, your Nathan Drake and all the other characters, are going to be a lot more detailed, different skin textures, a little bit more to it, things that couldn't have been done back on the PlayStation 3 because there wasn't enough power. Particle effects, they've been improved and or added into the game, which makes it a lot nicer. Now, I don't remember exactly, but if you look at the screen now, you can see those snowflakes, the particles there in the background. Now, they probably were in the original, but it's probably a little bit more prominent, noticeable, and looks a little bit nicer now. They've probably tweaked all that sort of stuff there. There's an increased draw distance, which basically means you'll be able to see further ahead into the distance. It probably doesn't show it off too well in this scene here because it's quite small and close up, but it will become evident when you play more of the game, which is pretty impressive. There's improvements to the game's shadows, which, well, a shadow is one of those things that will make a big difference to the game, but you probably won't notice. You'll just take it for granted. Now, there's screen space ambient occlusion, which has been added to Drake's Fortune, and it's been improved in the next two games. Okay, so there's a couple of other things that have been unified across the three games as well. So there's now a baseball-style grenade throw, which was originally introduced in Uncharted 2 and 3. It's now been added to the first game. So Drake's Fortune is going to have that style of throwing your grenades as well, which is a big improvement. Most of the controls from 2 and 3 have been thrown into 1, which make the game a little bit more user-friendly. Because if I could complain about one thing in Drake's Fortune, it would have to be the action, the gunplay, and the fighting mechanics, but they've all been tightened up now. There's integrated weapon feel and aiming logic. Like I was saying just then, it's going to be a lot better in the original game to play rather than playing the original on the PS3. Now, crushing is a difficulty that you needed to play through the game first before it was unlocked. It's now going to be available from the get-go. Now, I had a real hard time playing through Uncharted 2 on hard difficulty, and I nearly broke a couple of controllers, but you can go one step higher and pick crushing straight off the bat if you want. But that may ruin your experience because it's quite hard. Now, there's also another one beyond that called Brutal. Alright, on screen now we've got Uncharted 3, which is Drake's Deception. That's the third game in the series, the last one that's been made up until now. Now, this one obviously looked a lot better than the last two, being the latest, but it's also had some visual improvements. Now, just a bit of a trivia here. This is the scene that was actually copied in The Last of Us. Well, not the actual scene, what goes on, but the environment. You can actually find this pub in The Last of Us, and I think it's called O'Sullivan's Bar, which is a bit of an homage to one of the main characters, which you could kind of see on screen in the background, fighting that guy, which is Sully, Victor Sullivan. So I'll just run through some brand new game modes. So brutal difficulty, as I was just saying before, which is the most the most difficult part of the game, which will be very, very brutal indeed. There's also a speed run, which is added a timer to track your gameplay against your friends to see who can play it the fastest. And there's also explorer mode, which is like super duper easy, really good for Thorncliffe. So basically, it's going to be piss easy, but you'll be able to cruise through the game and enjoy it for what it is. And it's probably a really good mode for doing all your collectibles too, if you want to go back and do that. Photo mode has also been added to all three games as well, so you can press, I believe if you turn it on in the settings, you press down on the D-pad, which will activate photo mode, and you can take nice screenshots, and just like you can in The Last of Us. There's also been adjusted existing trophies, so there's new trophies as well as the original ones. There's render mode, which unlocks, and 80 bonus skin unlocks as you move through the game, so you can play as Elena, Sully, and a few more extra characters as well. There's a soundtrack which has been remastered for the game as well, and in 7.1 surround sound. And you will also get exclusive access to Uncharted 4's A Thief End multiplayer beta, which will run from December 4 to 13. And you have to buy that, so that's all cool. On day 1, you will expect patch 1.00, and this patch will be made available on launch day, and will include minor fixes for stability, audio and visual improvements, performance optimizations, including tweaks to aiming controls, and minor gameplay bug fixes. That about covers all of it. Now, I've played a little bit of all three of these ones, and it is stunning, and it is a massive improvement on what the games were back on the PS3, and they were amazing back then. So, granted, if you are an Uncharted fan, supporter, love the game, fanatic, you just go nuts for it, this is going to blow you away, and this will be a perfect birthday/Christmas present for you, or that significant other. I would recommend picking it up, and it's going to be a reasonable price on the digital store, and also pick it up on a physical copy. What I'm going to do is going to let you guys watch the rest of this video, and I'm going to shut up. There's going to be some screenshots at the end of this video. Thank you very much, everyone. Please like and subscribe. Aussie Gamers Express. Check out our Facebook page, as well as our weekly podcast, where we'll be talking about this and more over the coming weeks. Thank you very much. I've been Luke1. Peace out.